Welcome to the Create Today podcast. This show is all about how you can create the life that you love one day at a time. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, and my guest today is Kip Knippel. He is the CEO of Kip Search, and I can't wait to hear all about his journey to entrepreneurship, leadership development, and how you can't have one without the other. Welcome, Kip. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Karen. I'm honored. So I thank you very much. It's so exciting.
We're going to have so much fun. So I want to hear about the very first entrepreneurial journey you ever had. Did you always dream about having your own business?
That is a very good question. I guess my dad's a lawyer. So I grew up always thinking I was just going to be a lawyer, not just a lawyer, but like that was my plan, like my whole life. And yeah, I mean, I just remember like in college when everyone was going to job fairs and trying to figure out what they want to do and they're stressing out. I just knew I was going to go to law school. And so I just never had that stress. But I mean, looking back on all the things I've done, I mean, I was never wired to be an employee or work for somebody else.
How did you know? What was the clues?
Yeah, I mean, so out of law school, I worked at a law firm, did corporate mergers and acquisitions, commercial real estate, transactional law. And I really liked it. But what I really liked was putting the deals together and doing business development, generating new clients for the firm, which I got to do a fair amount of that, but actually putting the deals together, we didn't get to do that very much. And I, started to talk to the partners at the firm and other mentors. And I remember Leo, who was our real estate partner, who'd been practicing for 25, 30 years. And he's like, every once in a while we actually get to put a deal together, but usually the decision makers have already done that. They come to us at the firm and say, solve these problems as we're heading to a closing, or, taper up the deal. And so then I, again, started talking to a bunch of mentors and then went to CB Richard Ellis, which is biggest commercial real estate company in the world. And at CB, technically we were employees, and you could be a W-2 or a 1099, but we worked for CB, but it was close to being entrepreneurial in that you were running your own business. It was 100% commission based. So it was kind of one step in that direction. And I really liked that. I mean, that was nothing but putting deals together. I represented companies doing their real estate, technically around the world, but really around the US. Users of real estate, so mostly tenants or owner occupiers. So if they owned real estate, they owned it to run their business. They weren't being a landlord, they weren't being an investor. And then just met some people in the executive search business, which is what I do now, to refer business back and forth. And they recruited me for about a year to come join them, and I did. And then from day one, like all my clients were my own. Like I won my own work, I executed my own work. Nobody had ever heard of that firm until I introduced them to my clients. So it wasn't like CBRE, CB Richard Ellis, where everybody knew that. And then I quickly wised up and launched my own firm and been off and running and growing from there. And absolutely, I mean, at that point in time, hardest decision ever, but looking back, the easiest, but just to bet on yourself and go out on your own. And it's been nothing. I mean, you're just motivated in such a different way doing your own thing, and it's been phenomenal.
I was thinking as you're talking, I'm wondering if anybody listening is perhaps questioning the same thing. Maybe I'm not really meant to be, or not as fulfilled as I could be working for someone else. What were some of those clues that led you to think, I wonder if I could really do this, or if I would be more fulfilled if I was my own boss? What are some of those clues? Maybe someone's listening is kind of not sure, maybe thinks about it sometimes. What were some of your clues in your journey?
Oh, that's very good questions. I mean, a lot of times, I don't think this is uncommon. You run into like a huge conflict. Like, as an example, at the firm I was at, I was from day one, like not even knowing recruiting, I was the number one recruiter at that firm. I mean, from day one, like every year I was there, and the number one person was one of the founders. But I produced even more than the other founder every single year. And then after, a few years of doing that consistently, I reached out to that, or I didn't reach out to them. We did, like our annual review, and I just brought up the fact would you guys be open to changing the commission structure since I've done so well? And I mean, I won't even get into the details, but they shut that down. Like, there's no way in the world. And I thought, well,
Hmm.
that doesn't quite seem
That's
right.
weird.
Um, and so I think something like that, where you realize you're making somebody else rich, all your hard work and hard effort is going to somebody else. And if you pour that same amount of work and effort into yourself, I mean, you have a lot more power and control. And I always wanted to have control over my decisions and control over my destiny. And part of it was being young and inexperienced, especially in the real estate piece, where I really trusted the people I worked with
Yeah.
to look out to my best interests. And which, I mean, they were great people, but ultimately, and I think I've seen this a million times, and I've told this to my boys particularly, and it's so true. I mean, there's no, like, from boy or a man, there's no man in your life that wants you to be more successful or do better than him other than your father. Like, no
That's
matter
so
how much
true.
someone likes you or trusts you, no guy wants another guy to do better unless it's your own dad. And not even, and some dads don't even want their kids to do better, which is wrong. But
It's sad, but that's true
but
too.
just kind of that youth and experience and just really trusting others to have my well-being. It just, in different ways, that just kind of showed true that was false. And so
Well, then
anyway,
when it comes down to it, it seems to always be your core values don't match with the management or the leadership of where you are. It's the value you intrinsically believe that you should be paid the highest paid person because if you
uh-huh,
are creating the most results, right? That
right,
makes complete sense to me.
uh-huh, yes,
And they don't have that same value. They don't have that same, belief, which
right.
then that's not going to work out for you. And then how long after that meeting? What happened after that meeting?
No, yeah. I mean, it was that, and then there was another. We went on like a company trip. Like we took the whole company. We went down to Mexico for a week, and it was that trip coupled with that conversation that I just went home to my wife, and I'm like, this is over. There's no way I'm doing this. And then in pretty short order, left, and
Really?
we were up and running. I mean, and exactly to your point, especially on that trip. I mean, just core values did not line up
Mm.
on any level. And I'm I know a lot of companies do like these trips,
Mhm.
to reward their people, but I don't know. In some ways, I think, and this is a huge generalization. I think a lot of people don't want to do those trips, and like they would like to, like, we're going to send you and your husband on a trip, like by yourselves. People don't want to do these trips with the people they
Their
work with.
boss.
If they do, just people do things that are inappropriate, and just like, yeah, you're not on work time, you're having fun, but like you're still working with these people and they're still seeing what you're doing or saying. And it's just, I just think it's a recipe for, for disaster. And
Yeah.
that was, again, that was for me, just kind of seeing what was going on. And not that it was horrible or terrible, but it was just like values do not line up. And again, and then we had that trip, and then it was, right when we got back, maybe the next week, we had that conversation, and then the commission thing
That was
happened.
it?
Like, I'm done. Yeah.
Wow. It's so interesting that you say that because John has also been with Toyota for, I don't know, 25 years or so and running Toyota dealerships. They do all of the trips, all of the
Uh,
things. He's won every award,
yeah.
every place in the whole world he's been to. And you always have to go with all of the people from corporate, then all the people in your company, and then all of the other all the other dealerships. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we just said the same thing. I'd rather just go by ourselves. Like we want to just be together and doing what
Right.
we want to do, even though those trips
Right.
are incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're good. Like, let's just go. I want to go to Maui by ourselves. That's all
Uh-huh.
we want to
Yes.
do.
Right.
And I think that's so true. I mean, that's fun and it's great for companies to do that. But yeah, send them by themselves wherever they want to go.
Yeah,
That's way better than having to be with your boss all week.
yeah. There's
That's
not
so
that anything's
funny.
wrong with that. It's just,
Yeah, no.
I think deep down people don't want that. And it's like, we want to reward people in a way that like they like and fulfills them. And
Yeah.
I, I mean, number one, maybe people don't want to be on their best behavior when they're on a trip, which is fine, but they don't want to do it in
Yeah.
front of their boss. And you certainly don't want your boss doing things inappropriate or just being not on their best behavior in front of you, and you lose respect for them. And I mean, just it's just a I just think it's a recipe for disaster.
Everyone loses all respect for everybody. And then we just go back to work and pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah, right. And it's like you may, it's just, I don't know, it's just there's
Yeah.
memory burns that like just don't go away.
Wish weren't there.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I don't know.
I was thinking about that as far as like the core values. Was there something else that was innately didn't match up worth mentioning?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, core values is everything. And like in our business, I mean, as we talked about in our I mean, like our core values come first. Every decision is made based on core values, hiring, firing, growing. I mean, what we're going to do in the business, it's all driven by the core values, which in turn creates your culture. And yeah, I mean, this group had kind of, I don't, number one, we had no defined core values, and that was number
Mhm.
one. And number two, I just think personal values were just, they were just misaligned. And especially if you're somebody working, like if there's owners of a company or your boss doesn't have really strong values and you do, it's hard to work for someone like that.
Mhm.
Is even if you're successful and you like what you're doing, you love what you're doing, it's hard to work for someone whose values you don't respect. So I mean, so that's another one for people. And
Totally.
again, in our business, doing executive search, I mean, one of the biggest reasons people leave is it's not their company. It's their direct manager. Maybe it's the CEO of the company, maybe it's further down, but it's like the person or persons they work with every single day. I mean, those are the things that really drive people to leave. Even if they're having huge success, they love their company. I mean, they're drinking the Kool-Aid, the core values of the company, but like who they're directly working with or reporting to, that's usually the number one reason people make a move.
Interesting. I believe that. I remember one of my core memories at my first company is my boss came back from Maui from the house that he had just bought because I made him so much money.
Right.
What you just said, I'm making him rich. And he came and he was yelling at me and telling me he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I was thinking, I wish I had said this out loud. First of all, you've never seen me do a meeting. Second of all, you just bought a fucking house in Maui. So I'm sorry, what part of my job is bad? Because you haven't even been here in years. And I just remember thinking that and wishing I'd had the balls to say that to him. And and that's really when it started. It's like, you know what? Oh, wow, you have the house in Maui. I'm busting my balls off 12 hours a day and I'd never see my kids. And that's when it started for me. That's when you know that the values are not aligned up. Doesn't make anyone bad or wrong. I want a house in Maui someday. I'm gonna have
Right.
it. And
Yes.
it's just so cool. But when you have those little aha moments, I really think just for our listeners, I just think it's really important to take note of those. Just see where it perhaps might not line up. And there might be another better opportunity or a culture and a leadership team that does align with your values, even if you really don't want to own your own business, and that's exactly what you're doing. When was that when you started your business, your own business?
So it was about 11 years ago. Actually, I take that back. I started doing executive recruiting about 11 years ago. I launched our firm about 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
What was
And
what's the biggest challenges that you had when you started your own company?
I was very blessed and very fortunate. I mean, I didn't really have to start from scratch. Every single one of my clients came with me. And so
Wow.
I hit the ground running with work on day one. And so I mean, I kind of the first big challenge was, it was just me in the beginning, and making that decision to go from just me to adding somebody. Like I really wrestled with that for about a year. And then I had a really good mentor that really walked me through and talked me through it. Like that, this is your company. You can do whatever you want. If you want it just to be you, that's fine. But if you want to grow and you want to add, and just that there are people out there that, especially in the recruiting industry, I just look at myself, like the story you hear over and over again is, someone comes in, they're a rock star, they do really well. You train them up, you invest time in them, you invest money in them, and they leave and start their own thing. And then the cycle just happens all over again. And what this mentor shared with me is there are people in all industries, but in recruiting, that don't ever want to run their own business. They really don't.
True.
But they are rock stars, and they will do phenomenally well. And as long as you treat them well and you have strong core values and a strong culture, and they're paid well and they're treated well, like they'll never leave, because they don't want, because not everyone's wired to run their own business or even want
No,
to do that.
it's
And that
true.
was like an aha moment. And then I flipped that, and then I was open to those opportunities. Then I hired my first person who I've known forever, and like trusted him to the core.
Mm.
Um, and then we've kind of grown from there. And we added one person year one, that was just the two of us, and then we added another, and then we added four more, and then it just kind of has exponentially grown from there. But that
That's
was a
so
huge
exciting.
unlock to like not be a solopreneur and like, okay, we're gonna really grow. And then now, fast forward, Arte, and then now really wanting to 10x our business. Not the Grant Cardone 10x way, but Dan Sullivan, like 10x is easier than 2x, like that philosophy, and just really grow our business, not just for the sake of growth, but like smart growth and adding the right people and making the right decisions, having the right clients, just really trying to add value exponentially better and more deeply and have those relationships. And it's so much fun. I mean, it really doesn't feel like work.
Mm.
But I mean, as you know, I mean, kind of the entrepreneurial journey, as much as you love it, I mean, you're getting beat down every
Wild.
single day, all day long,
Yeah.
and you just accept that, and you almost get numb to it. And then, I don't know, it's so much fun, but it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Yeah. How important were, I was just talking to our friend at the gym who's buying the business he's worked for 25 years, and and the owner is ready to retire, and he's putting the deal together to purchase it. And it's going to go through pretty soon. And I'm just like, get ready. I say, you might want to go on a vacation before those
Right.
deals signed.
True.
It's going to be nonstop, but it's awesome. You get to control it all, and you could do the way that you want to do. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. Yeah.
For
If
sure.
you don't want all that responsibility, it certainly don't have to have that responsibility.
Uh-huh.
And I've known other men, and women, but I remember specifically a man that when I was growing up in my church, he was a what is it called? Postal, can't say postman anymore, I guess. He was a postman,
Yeah.
and he loved it. He had a steady paycheck, he had good benefits, and he could always come home at 4 o'clock and go to
Mhm.
all of his children's school stuff, everything. He never missed anything. That was the most important thing to him.
Uh-huh.
And never wanted to never wanted a business, never had a worry in the world at night. It was just family. He could do work and then just family. And that's beautiful. That was perfect for him. To your point, not
Uh-huh.
everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and I
Right.
get it.
Yeah, for sure. And
It's a
it's, I was just gonna say, there's seasons for everything. I mean, like, and I worked a ton, but I never missed any of my kids' games. I coached all of them and everything until they like outgrew me. Um, it was so much fun. I would never, ever, ever give that back. But now they're older, and they're doing their own stuff. So now it's easier to spend more time doing this, but still be involved. But they don't, have constant games, and I'm not coaching every day. And the other thing I was going to say is, once you make that entrepreneurial leap, and it is a light switch, you're just motivated in such a different way. Like staying up till 2 a.m. working and grinding, like it's not fun, but you reap the direct reward of that as opposed to someone else building their house in Maui.
Right.
You don't necessarily stay up till 2 a.m. so he
You
can
just
build his house in Maui, but for you to be able to work towards building your house in Maui, yeah, you'll do that all day long.
all day long.
Such a different motivation.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the seasons too, because I'm in the same season too.
Yeah.
I now have more free time than I ever had because my kids are 18 and 20 now.
Uh-huh.
And they drive themselves and do all their own thing. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. You don't know what it's like until you get to that season, in every season,
Right.
right? Um, how important were the core values? Did you establish them and create them right when you started your own business?
Well, great question. I honestly no.
Mhm.
I just kind of launched and once, and it
Mhm.
really wasn't until Arate, which I've been in, I don't know now. So I almost joined Arate when it launched, which is right when I was launching my business. And then the next year when it opened up, or the next time it opened up, that's when I joined. And it was right around then that I really crystallized core values for our business. And by then we had, a number of people. But then I really got the team's input, and ultimately, as the leader, you make the decision, but I just want to get everyone's input and buy-in, and that we really crafted our four core values. But it really wasn't until then. So that was, a couple years into the business.
Couple years in, yeah,
Um, but I mean, ultimately the core values are just a reflection of like my personal core values are. So they were always there,
right,
but they weren't like written down and crystallized for the business. And then I wasn't, again, until Arte, really thinking in the way that I'm making every decision consciously based on the core values of our business.
right. Andy taught us that, and we learned
Yeah,
that from Andy Frisella too.
100%.
And we sat down with our leadership team and we did the same thing. We just kind of worked through them and narrowed it down and narrowed it down, and they came up with 10. And then, of course, I made, signs all over the place, and
Right.
you can stick to them, and it's part of their contract. And it's a beautiful thing. And he's a genius, obviously. That's why he's built what
Uh-huh.
he's built. And that's why we're in Arte, so we can learn from him.
Right.
Yeah. Have you been 5 years? Did you go to the awards dinner? You
No. So I
weren't
just
there.
I
Oh,
just missed that.
I think we're the same year as you then,
Yeah.
29.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, good. They do another one and maybe we'll get invited. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
incredible.
that's been transformational too.
100%.
Just being in, because I was in a number of other like CEO roundtable groups,
Hmm.
and then like executive search firm owner groups, from single owners to like people with large firms.
Hmm.
And it got to the point that I outgrew those groups. It was
Yeah.
like, again, to have a season. I mean, they were super valuable, but then it gets to the point that like I felt like I was bringing all the ideas or just like different ways of thinking of things, and that's when I did Arte and just like leveled up to be with people that are, I mean, unless you're people with people way beyond where you are, you don't grow, and like you don't even know the questions to ask to get to the next level because you're not there. And so that's been super helpful to just get
Yeah.
with people that are way beyond where you're at, that you can ask, or you can just say, I don't even know what to ask you to like do this. And like that just adds so much value
I
to have
agree.
people, again, way beyond where you're at currently.
Yeah, I agree. And we also he really pounds that, both of them do. And Milet, he talks about rooms, putting yourself in the next level
Right.
of room. You've been in 5 years, go find someone in the 10-year room, in the 20-year room. Get yourself in front of somebody who has accomplished and created what you want to create in your future, and be
Uh-huh.
around them. Find anybody and get around them. And because at every level, people love good people, which is the only people you want to be around. Good
Uh-huh.
people want to help. They want to see everyone succeed. They want to be a mentor. And I think a lot of people don't really think that. I think a lot of people assume that very wealthy people are selfish, or
Uh,
have
yeah.
some kind of beliefs that probably came from their, baby boomer parents.
Mhm. Yeah.
In that, you got to hold on. You got to be, have scarcity. My parents are, what is it? What's the generation of, they're 86 and 82. I forgot the name of the generation. Traditional? I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah. I think so.
and their parents, they were raised, they were born right after the Depression, the Great Depression. So, I mean, my mom, doesn't throw away a plastic yogurt cup. Like still
Yep.
to this day, she will rinse. She was at my house a couple days ago, rinsing out a yogurt cup and then saving it so that she could put something else in it. Like I have like, I don't know, 50 like 50 containers that are glass. You don't need that little plastic thing. You can just throw it
Right.
away. She
Yeah.
still saves it.
Yeah.
So a lot of our beliefs about wealth and business and everything, they come from someone else based on their
100%.
experiences. Yeah. And so that was such a great lesson that we've also learned from being an RTA. And anybody who doesn't know what RTA is, it's you can find it on the website. It's called rtasyndicate.com in case any of our listeners are interested in what that is. I want to talk about leadership development. And we were talking before we started about you really can't have one without the other. I guess if you're not really developing yourself as a leadership, sure, you could make a lot of money and you could have a big company and you can have incredible sales and all of that stuff. I just don't think, and I think you're in agreement, I don't really think that you can grow it to the way that it could be. And as you're serving and fulfilling everyone around you, inside and outside the company, what was the kind of the first, like, I really want to grow and I really want to develop leadership skills? When did you realize that this is an area I want to focus on, and why?
Yeah. That is one that has been hardwired into me since I was a kid. Like I
Really?
always wanted that. I always wanted to grow and learn new things. And
Mm.
I was one of those people, I always had a million different friend groups,
Mm.
and just wanted to be with, I loved meeting new people. I mean, I think I'm like an extreme like extrovert. I mean, I just get energy from, building deep relationships with people, but also meeting new people. And I always was hungry to learn. And like, I just like even in like trying to think exactly for sure
Were you
high
in
school,
sports?
maybe, but yeah, I played football, basketball, and
Mhm.
baseball.
Were you
Uh,
generally the leader in general,
yeah,
even
yeah,
as a young kid?
yeah.
Why do you
And
think that is? Because was your father a very strong leader? Just
yeah,
curious.
yeah, and like you said, you learn from your parents a lot. I mean, he coached all my sports growing up. So I mean,
Mm.
I just thought that's what dads do, and they
Right.
are involved and they coach their kids. And
That's
yeah, he was a
amazing.
strong leader. And I mean, he was like I mean, honestly, and I just told him this the other day because he just had his birthday. He just turned 78.
Hmm.
He was really my best friend growing up. I mean,
Mm.
and he was the best man at my wedding.
Oh.
We did tons of like road trips together to like car shows because we grew up. He had classic cars like my whole life, and so we
Mm.
went to car shows and air shows, and just the two of us like drove around the country going to these things, and so much fun. Uh,
Wow.
so I learned a lot from him, and so I'm 6 feet tall. I was probably 5'10" in fifth grade. So I was always taller and like bigger than the other kids. And my dad started me lifting weights in sixth grade. So I mean that helps with kind of the leadership thing. People just take you a little more serious when you're bigger and stronger than other people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Natural leader.
but I don't know, I was always hungry to learn. I mean, most people like law school, for example. Most people hate law school. I mean, I loved it.
Really?
It was super hard work and just like grueling, but I love learning and like pushing yourself mentally and physically in all areas. But I've just always been wired that way. And I remember like when we were done with college football, um, like a lot of my friends were like, oh, thank the Lord, I never have to lift weights again. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I will never stop. This is like the best thing ever. But a lot of guys quit working out after we were done with football in college. And I don't know, I just have always, I think it was just hardwired into me. I mean, I like to say I've had like, I got like Andy's book here on mental toughness. I think I was naturally just wired with that and liking that more than, and then as time goes on and then you're conscious of it, then you try to develop it and push it and push it and push it. But like from an early age, I think I just kind of had that and liked it.
Mm. That's beautiful. We got an incredible role model,
My
obviously.
parents are absolutely, I
You're,
mean, amazing.
they sound incredible and you're so
Yeah. And I
blessed.
was, yeah. And I was an only child until I was 15. So I mean, I had lots of like
Oh,
pulling on me. And then my
and
parents
then
adopted my,
whoopsie daisies.
No, and my parents adopted my sister, who's 15
Oh
years
my
younger,
gosh. Really?
From Paraguay and South America. So, and she kind of grew up as an only child too, but um,
Wow.
yeah. So I mean,
That's so cool.
yeah, super cool.
Was she a baby?
Yeah, oh, that's a crazy story. So she was um 5 months old when my parents got her. So they went down to Paraguay. But the country wouldn't let they could leave, but they couldn't take my sister out of the country for 3 months.
Oh,
Yeah, so my dad came home after 2 weeks, and a lot of the husbands did, or but a lot, and then a bunch of moms. I think there was like 7 or 8 were down there at the same time, and
way.
they were stuck in Paraguay for 3 months, and they were in the hotel and they were together, but because and it's I think it's corruption and things down there too. That's part of like their economy.
Yeah.
And they like the only way to make things happen was to like bribe judges. And then
Fun.
my mom's court date was supposed to come up. Like that judge got disbarred for taking bribes, and so it was like it was yes. Yeah, but so yeah, so she was 5 months when my parents got her, and then 8 months when they finally were able to bring her home.
No way.
Yeah,
Did you get to go
crazy.
down there at all when they were doing all this?
I didn't. I was just starting high school. So I
Yeah.
was a freshman in high school. My grandparents stayed with me, and so yeah, so they were down there, right when I started. My birthday's in November, so they were down there for like my birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
They didn't even come home for Christmas.
My Again, my dad was home,
Uh-huh.
um, and then yeah, I remember like my dad and I watched some like terrible movie on Christmas Day. I mean, like an action adventure, violence, and I'm like, I can't believe we're watching this on Christmas. I like that's a memory burn.
Should we just start drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, Dad,
Right,
while we're at
yeah.
it?
I mean, it was like a guy's
Yeah.
weekend, kind of like when,
Like
but
Die Hard.
yeah,
So
I mean, something like that.
yeah. The joke is like the best Christmas movie ever, and people like to say Die Hard because it was at Christmas time. They think it's
Yeah,
so funny.
right.
If anyone says, I had a girlfriend just the other day. If anyone says Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, then they're wrong. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right, it's a
it
Christmas
was
movie.
so
Good
good.
job. It's so good.
So good.
I need to watch it again. Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Eyes are watering.
yeah,
Um, well, that's so cool. So then you're 15, she's a baby. And then
yeah,
your whole high school year, you had a little baby sister. Did you
right.
did you watch her a lot? Were you responsible for her sometimes? That's a little baby and then 15 years difference. That's
I
wow.
was. It's so funny. I like all these memories are coming back now. Like I would like push her around like parks and
Aw.
stuff, because then girls would come over and like, oh, isn't she cute? I mean, like, not to pick up girls, but like just go for walks, and like that would happen, and it was just kind of fun. And I used her as, I shouldn't say a prop, but I did like a like how to change a diaper in school. Like we had to do like a demonstration of how to do something. So she was like my prop. I brought her to school, and I mean everyone knew her and I
Aw.
knew the story. So she was like famous at my high school, and then she ended up going to the same high school
Aw.
as a baby. And then another memory burn. So my dad had a 75 Stingray Corvette,
Holy shit.
and I was like, oh, can I take the car for a little cruise like in the summer? And my dad was kind of waffling. I'll take Keegan's my sister. I'm like, I'll take Keegan with. He's like, okay. So I put her in the car seat. So we're both in the front seat of the car. I mean, you'd probably get arrested for doing this now.
Put in
We went
jail.
for a little cruise, and I actually crashed the Corvette with her in it.
No.
Yeah, we were driving down so I live in Minneapolis and or St. Paul, and there's a river road. So there's a river that divides Minneapolis and St. Paul, and it's gorgeous. Like driving along the road, and there's mansions, and it's just a beautiful area. So as we were driving down there, and I turned up one road, and I was going to turn around and come back and go on the river road. I was going up, and I gunned it on this street, and unbeknownst to me, there was like an oil slick, like oil on the road. So the car just started spinning around like this, and then the next thing you know, we like stopped, and we're like in the front of someone's yard.
Oh my
I thought
gosh.
I thought we were totally fine. She looks over at me and she's like giggling and thought it was fun. And then I get out of the car, and like one of the wheels is kind of warped. I'm like, I am dead. My dad's gonna kill
Oh
me.
no.
then I walked around to the back of the car and it was gone. Because it's all fiberglass. It had hit a tree and just shattered. So the back of the car was gone. And so then I called my dad, and then he came over, and then we had to drive it home. And I mean, again, that wheel was warped. So the whole drive home, which probably took a half an hour because he had to go slow. He's in front of me, and the car's going like this. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my gosh. But my sister was fine.
yeah.
I
Oh,
was,
that hurts really.
not fine. I mean, he just about killed me. But so that's another little memory burn with my sister when she was very, very little.
Oh my gosh. I remember
Yeah.
my dad loading us all in the station wagon. We had a really angled driveway. And for some reason, he put his 66 Mustang right behind the driveway and backed right into it. I'll
Oh,
never forget that moment because it was his fault and he didn't remember it was there. He was already mad because everyone takes forever to get in the car for church. Oh my gosh. My mom turns around. It's like, don't say a word. I'm like, we're not.
oh,
He gets out. It was a nightmare. It's like those classic cars. It's like, it's one thing if you wreck a car. It's like an old beater station wagon. Like, I wrecked that, but who cares? But oh, the classic cars. It's like a Stingray Corvette. Oh,
you
what
know,
did he do with it? Was it totaled or did he rebuild it?
he fixed it, and
He did.
this shows how much like forgiveness my dad has. He actually let me drive it again,
Oh,
like,
oh,
which I can't even believe.
yeah, neither.
So yeah, but he got it fixed.
Oh,
It just needed a new back end and like a new rim and tire. I mean, that's just, but
just a
because
new back end. No big
the
deal.
back end just like,
Of a
it's
75 Stingray.
fiberglass, it was just gone. But it wasn't like it didn't like hurt anything else. It just
Yeah.
came up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Well, that's so cool. How
so much fun.
fun. Sounds like an amazing dad. I should interview your dad next.
Yeah,
He sounds incredible.
he's literally the
Teach dads how to
nicest,
be a good dad. Like
yeah,
seriously, amazing.
kindest. He's incredible.
When my parents were here, I interviewed them. Have you ever interviewed your own dad?
I haven't.
You've got to
No.
do it. I'm going to post about it and I'm going to tell you what happened. It was just an amazing experience.
Oh,
I've asked them questions I've just been kind of was on my mind and I've never asked them before. And they're in the last chapter of their lives and they love talking and reminiscing and telling me stories I hadn't heard before. And they said things I've never heard them say. And I'm almost 50. So it
wow.
was very special. It ended up being 4 hours long.
Oh,
And I am going to post it. It's just for our family. I mean, nobody's going to listen to 4 hours of me talking to my parents, but it was so beautiful and so wonderful. And so, kids, here's your little message today. You better interview your parents and get it on camera. Just hold up your phone if you want to. It's just, it'll be mind blowing. And you'll have those memories forever.
yeah. I can't remember if it was my cousin or my aunt, but interviewed my grandma, and she was
Mhm.
in her late 80s on camera. I mean, like with the VHS, and like we still have that. And just asked her all these questions about growing up. And I mean, thank God they did that. And then my cousin's son, who I think of as a cousin, but he did a thing which was kind of cool with my aunt, who's now 91. He it's some service online, but they like send one question a week, and then she'll write an answer, and then ultimately they put together a book. And
I
then so
just
we have
saw
this,
that. I saw an
yeah,
ad for that on Instagram.
yeah, and then we read her book, and like it was just like, and my aunt had been, so she was the oldest in my mom's family, so my mom's sister, and became a nun like right out of high school, and so talks about like that, and then actually left the convent and got married
Wow.
to a former priest. Like I don't know how that's even possible, but so she tells me, or I didn't. So she tells that story, and then lived like, she worked for this kind of famous place in the Twin Cities that deals with like drug and alcohol addiction, and like was a counselor, and then like built the program, and then she worked at the Minnesota History Museum and like has stories. I mean, it was amazing. So we got to hear, I mean, I'm sure like you do with your parents, like her whole growing up and like what it was like being in the convent and like doing this counseling, and she's, yeah, incredible.
You'll have that forever and you won't have
Yeah,
it unless you do the interviewing and
right.
send the story. Well,
Yeah.
here's everybody's sign. Everybody needs to do it. It's so important, and you'll have those memories forever, or you're not, or you won't, you know, one day
Yeah,
they'll be gone.
I know.
So going back to leadership and developing as a leader, even though you feel like you've been hardwired to grow and learn. Let's talk about leadership specifically. Was there a point or some kind of pivotal point where you said, this is what I need to focus on? Did you have it? I'm going to focus on leadership, my own leadership development. Was there certain things that helped you, pivotal moments or books that you read first?
Yeah, no, yeah, another great question. Again, I always tried to like put myself in those positions. Like when my mom was in Paraguay, I ran for like class president and won that and did that, and just kind of always tried to like do that or work hard on a team to become the captain of the team.
Mhm.
And just kind of naturally people like looked at me as a leader. And it's
Mhm.
almost like people that aren't trying to be leaders, but like people just like listen to them and follow them. Um, so then I don't know, in college, I tried to like harness that, and I really just try to do things that were out of my comfort zone always. I always just like kind of liked that, like that uncomfortableness of pushing your boundaries. Again, I mean, I grew up playing sports, but like ran or was in a playing college, and like that was totally. I went to the movie Good Will Hunting with my girlfriend, now my wife, and we got out of the movie. I'm like, I don't care what it is. I'm going to try out for the play in the spring.
No way.
Okay, and I did and got in it. And it was so much fun. I got to meet a whole group of people I would have never met. A totally different experience.
What was the play?
So it was called The Birds, which is a play by the ancient uh, playwright Aristophanes. And then we
Sounds like a
modernized it
blast.
to modern times, and it was wild. It was so much fun. And and you do like, I can't remember how many shows, like 10 or 15 shows. So you do it over and over and over again, which is like in sports, you play a lot of games, but they're all different. This is the same one over and over again. So that was super fun. And then I just always liked reading leadership books. I mean, Tony Robbins, of
Yep.
course. Um,
Even early in your career?
yeah, I mean, in college, I started reading,
Yeah.
probably started reading that stuff in college. And I always, it wasn't until college that I really loved reading. Now, and I did always in high school, like the AP English and reading classes, and read the classics. And once I was in college and you got to like, again, you got to read stuff for school, but when I could read things I wanted to read just because I wanted to read them, that's when I really developed a love for reading of all things. I mean, fiction, nonfiction, but really like the self-development. I mean, Andrew Carnegie, I mean, Think
Mm.
and Go Rich,
Yep.
I mean, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, I just love that stuff. I read tons of like memory books too, like how to remember people's names and things like that. I was never good at that. That's one thing that I remember again in college for football, we got up there like 3 weeks early, and you're doing training camp and stuff. And then my parents came up for the first game, and we're walking around campus, and people would be like, and Kip Knippel is an easy name to remember. So it's a blessing and a curse. For better or worse, people like remember that. And we're
Yeah.
walking around, like, I don't know if it was before the game or after, and people were like, hey, Kip, hey, Kip. And I'm like, hey, big guy, what's up, big guy? And then finally my dad's like, Kip,
Hey,
I don't
you.
know you need to know people's names. You cannot do that.
True.
And he's right. But I was like, I go, Kip Knippel is easy to remember. I go, it's so I've really tried to work on that. And I obviously gotten better over time, but faces like our memory burns, but names are sometimes difficult. But I've tried to read those, and they're books from like the 50s, like from like the time of Win Friends and Influence People, like books from back then, like how to. And I always think of like, I know I'm rambling here, but like The Office, when Michael Scott is trying to remember people's names when he's doing a presentation, and comes up with these crazy, ridiculous stories in his head, and then he says them out loud, which are so embarrassing. Um, but that's been a tough one. Just like that's definitely a weakness. Like some people just do the name thing, and they're just like amazing at it.
Right.
Um,
Did you
I don't
read
know.
Jim Quick's book?
What's that?
Did you read Jim Quick's book? Well, he's written a couple, but
I have not.
oh,
No.
you got to read his book. He had a brain injury when he was a kid, and he literally had to teach himself how to remember anything. And so now he teaches everybody else how to read, how to remember anything they need to learn. He's got all kinds of apps and programs, and he's amazing.
I'll have
I think
to,
it's
I've seen him
called,
speak a couple times, but
yeah, I can't remember what his, I'll text it to you.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Oh, Limitless. It is Limitless. I couldn't remember
Oh,
it. Yeah,
okay.
it's called Limitless. It's so good. So great. That'll help you out.
Yeah.
So I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted, like, as your final thoughts, or just your thoughts around why leadership, developing as a leader, is so important or is so crucial for building a successful business.
Yeah,
Why do you
no,
think that is? And how have you seen it manifest in your own business, in your own life?
I mean, if you want to improve your business and grow, you obviously have to grow as a person. And there's almost like a humbleness of like trying to develop as a leader. I mean, just by recognizing, yes, I need to develop. It's like I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect, and I want to grow and I want to learn how I can be a better leader so that you can create better leaders in your organization. And that's really, rather than leading people, building other leaders in your company. I mean, that's really how you grow your business and have a great culture and strong core values. And that's the most fulfilling thing, is to see people that you've developed, then developing other people or leading, or and just learning to just be quiet, like when you're with your team, and like let them talk, and like it blows your mind. And then you just almost get this hunger for, I want to grow, I want to learn more, I want to be better. And the more you learn, the more you develop as a leader, the more you realize you don't know it all, and you have so much more to learn, and everything you thought you knew, you really don't know. And so I think it's that building that lifelong curiosity and like hunger for learning, getting better. I mean, going through it and doing it, but it fuels that hunger, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, so that you do more and more of that, so that you can better help the people around you and support the people around you and serve them, and realize, you're not the boss telling people what to do. Your job as the boss, the owner of the company, is to serve the people that work with you and work for you, and think of yourself as a team. It's not me telling you what to do, it's us. And you talk about your company, it's not my company, it's our company. And I don't know,
So exciting.
yeah, and it is exciting. You can just get fired up and enthusiastic, and it allows you to, I mean, the more you can empower leaders within your organization, it allows you to free up time to think bigger picture things. And how can we take this business to the next level, or how can I support people and grow them? Um, and it's just so fulfilling, and it's positive, and you're making an impact, and it makes you feel good about yourself and about your people, about the world. And the more you just keep, kind of filling your mind with that. I can't remember who said it, but almost like your brain has like 100 units of thought, and you can't waste any of those units thinking about negative things, or focusing on negative things or bad things that happen. You have, over time, you wean that down so that you can take those 100 units of thought, and you're focusing on positive and growth. And then once you've kind of filled those 100 units up, now you up level the 100 units, so that they're higher level things, but focus on positivity and growth and opportunity and service and fulfillment, and then legacy. And
Mm.
I don't know, it's like the flywheel thing. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and stronger and faster. And
Mm.
it just makes you feel
You
good.
you said a lot of things that are really important. And one is the humility piece. If you're a constant seeker, learner, always searching to improve and help others and help everyone else improve and grow confidence and grow leadership skills and, grow all of those things, that in itself, the humility it takes to just say, I am never going to be done learning. I'm always going to want to do better and help more people and help them get better in any way forever. Right. Just having that mindset is humility. You said it, but that humility itself is what makes people want to be in the same business, wants to work really hard, wants to be on that team, and like feel like that you are a part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that's a huge, huge piece of it. And that's what you are doing. It is you. And it's so beautiful to see and how much you've grown, create this huge, massive business in such a short amount of time. I mean, 6 years is a very short amount of time. And because you said legacy, I thought I'd just end with this question. What do you hope that your legacy is? What legacy is Kip Knippel, easiest name to remember, going to leave when you leave this planet?
Oh, that's a big one, right? I mean, I think number one, it like starts with family. I mean, I
Yeah.
want to remember it as like the best husband I could have ever been, the best father I could have ever been, the best brother, the best son, uncle. I mean, and then kind of grow it from there and just make a positive impact on people's lives. And I always think of just what Ed Milet always says, and other people have said it too. It's like, and I think even Maya Angelou, I mean, going way back when, I mean, it's not what you say, it's not what you do, it's how you make people feel. And just be remembered for making people feel good, but like in an authentic, real way, not fluff, and just like positively impacting people's lives. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing, but starting with family and then kind of growing up from there.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're awesome, Kip. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. How can people find you?
Yeah. So on social media, it's Kip Knippel on everything. So I'm all the platforms, or Kip Search is the name of our business, but Kip Knippel is the easiest thing, and you can use that on any platform, and that's where all my stuff is. I try to like communicate like we all are, just like your message and your core values, and share it on the different social media platforms to, again, make that positive impact and try to help people any way I can and we can.
Well, you're not trying to, you are doing it.
Thank you.
So there is no try. There is do or do not. Listen to
Right.
you.
Yeah.
It's my favorite line of any movie ever.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And listeners, thank you so much for being here and listening to my show or watching if you're on YouTube. I really appreciate you. Remember, you can create the life that you love and just take it one day at a time. And God bless you. Thanks, Kip.